Hi, I'm Sara, and a few months ago I finally quit my job to become a full-time freelance illustrator. I started by posting my work on Instagram, and since I made the jump into self-employment, I've been getting tons of questions from you guys asking how I did that. So I thought I could talk about it while painting and answer your most frequently asked questions at the end of the video. So let's go. So basically, I started drawing ever since I could hold a pencil. I was always drawing as a kid, and I remember I always wanted to become better and better at it. But it never crossed my mind to become an artist on Illustrator, because it wasn't a normal job for me, and I didn't think that I could make a living with it. When I was 20 years old, I moved to Berlin and studied business communications. By that time, I kind of forgot about drawing, but by the end of my studies, the urge to pick up some brushes and paints came creeping back at me. So there I was, falling back in love with drawing and painting. I was also following some artists on Instagram, and I saw them posting their work online, so I wanted to give it a go too. Little did I know that this was the start of something new. After graduating, I worked as a product designer in a company for 2 years and spent my free time drawing. But there was something always inside me telling me that this is not how I imagined my life to be. I didn't want to ask anybody for permission to do things, and I did not want to be in an office environment from 9 to 5. I wanted to be independent and do my own thing. I want to build and grow a business and to be able to support myself in the future rather than working for someone else's goals, if you know what I mean. In some years, I want to be able to look at something I built up myself and to be proud of that. I want to work from wherever I want, and I hate the feeling of being inside when the weather is nice and sunny, since we don't get this often in Berlin anyways. I want to work on projects with companies I'm passionate about, and I want to create my own products as well. I also want to be able to take vacation whenever I want and for how long I want. And I want to be free from the typical 9 to 5 pattern. And this doesn't mean that I wanted to work less. In fact, I work much more now than I used to, but that's for later. I was definitely influenced by the people surrounding me because most of them are self-employed. My parents both run their own companies and run another company together. Even my little sister has an online shop and she's only 15. So growing up, I only experienced how it is to be self-employed, and I saw the freedom you have with it. In fact, I never knew how it is to be employed, until I was employed myself. Now, even my husband is a founder ever since he was 17 years old, so as you can see, it was something new to me and I felt restricted by the boundaries because I never experienced this before. And when I landed my first book cover illustration freelance job after only a few months on Instagram, I was like, wow, it's actually possible to make money with my passion. So from this day on, I took my art and Instagram much more seriously and really saw it as my way into full-time freelance life. I started posting more and frequently, and I tried to find a way of making my illustrations suitable for commercial needs. It was a long way, and it took me up until just about now that I know what are the things that I want to be illustrating, what kind of vibe or what kind of message I want to communicate, what fields suit my style, and also what I don't want to be doing. I don't want to go into detail about how I knew what to do with my illustrations in this video, but if you want to know more about that, let me know in the comments and I will talk about it in one of my next videos. So after almost 2 years of working in the daytime and drawing in the night, I was extremely exhausted and I needed a change. I decided to quit my job and to become a full-time illustrator. By that time, I got a few freelance jobs already, and every now and then I would get job requests, but they weren't steadily and continuously coming in. I saved about 2 to 3 months worth of rent, which I wouldn't suggest. I would suggest to save at least 6 months worth of rent and any other fixed costs when you're starting out. I luckily did not have to touch my savings yet, but then again I didn't start completely out of the blue. I kind of prepared it for 2 years and I got my work out there. I had about 20 to 25,000 followers on Instagram by that time, and I honestly think that this was one of the most important things that helped me get started, because I get the majority of my jobs because companies and people have seen my work online. So I quit my job and allowed myself 1 month to prepare for it. I built up my website and portfolio. I made sure I had some good quality work on there. I learned about finances and taxes, and I rearranged a room in our apartment, which is now my lovely studio I get to work in every day. I felt good about everything until a few days before I wanted to start officially. I was super afraid of failing. I was scared I would never ever get a client. I was afraid of not being able to pay the bills, and millions of thoughts were in my head, and I was questioning if this was really the right thing to do. When I talked about it with my closest friends and family, they all supported me and said it's totally normal to be scared in the beginning. But I just will give it a go and try it out, and if it doesn't work out, then it's okay to go back to a normal job again. I am not making a life decision here, so why being afraid, right? So then I had everything ready and I was waiting for things to happen. Luckily, there were a couple of job offers coming in right in the beginning, so I gladly took them on and started working right away. In the meantime, I was planning the launch of my Etsy shop. As you can imagine, the first month went by so fast. The next month I launched my Etsy shop. So besides working on client jobs, I was also packing orders now, which is a really nice and relaxing activity actually. And I love that I get to send something right to your doorstep, which makes everything so personal, and I love that very much. The first 3 months went by really fast, and I didn't have time to even think about it or to be scared or worried. I was completely focused on the work I had to do. I got some amazing opportunities for interesting jobs. I made prints and stickers for my Etsy shop. I packed orders and wrote little personal notes to them. I created content for my Instagram and YouTube channel, and luckily I was able to pay the bills, and amazing job opportunities keep coming in. I'm so grateful that I got to do what I love, and I hope I can do that for a very long time. Fingers crossed. How long have you been doing art for? Did you study art at university? No. I did not study art at university. I'm completely self-taught. I think it can be helpful to go to an art school, but I wouldn't change my path if I could. If I want to learn about something, there are tons of tutorials out there nowadays. The business part of my job is what I learned in my previous job at university, and I learn as I go every day. But I think art school can be super helpful in getting to know people from the business, and also if you want to work in a studio one day. I have been drawing ever since I could hold a pencil, but I completely forgot about it between around 18 to 20 or 21. But yeah, after that I started to take it more seriously again. Do you need to have a full-time job first before you become a freelancer? You don't have to. I know many people freelancing right out of uni. I had a full-time job before as a product designer, and for me it was a really important part because I didn't really know much about the adult work life. It also made me realize what I want and what I don't want in my job, but that was more helpful in terms of finding myself. And I can only speak for myself, but I think working a normal job has made things a little easier for me because it gave me some time to freelance on the side and build up my business without having the pressure of succeeding. How do I get clients? My answer to this question might not be really helpful. By the time I started freelancing, I already built up a decent following, so almost all of my clients approach me because they have seen my work online or they have seen previous client projects that I made. In fact, I have never approached a client yet, so I've been extremely lucky and fortunate, and I appreciate this a lot. But if one day the day will come and I have to approach a client, I would probably do it with sending them an email and letting them know that I'm available, and maybe dropping a few lines why my work would be suitable for them. I think this is how I'm going to do it. How did I choose watercolor and digital art as my preferred medium to work with? This is actually a really good question, and I had to think about it for a while. I started off with watercolor because I love how it looks like. It gives such a calm and quiet vibe, and I love watching how the paint moves on the paper. Kinda hard to control, and this is why every watercolor piece is super unique. I love how it relaxes me, I guess. I started with digital art when the iPad Pro was released, and because I had the feeling that I kind of have to be able to paint digitally in order to become an illustrator. Turns out you can become an illustrator without knowing how to paint digitally. But I fell in love with it. It is so simple and clean, and it allows me to make mistakes. And I basically have every color on earth all stored in my little Apple Pencil. So actually I think these two are my favorites because this is how I got started. I tried gouache because I love gouache paintings too, but I found it super hard to handle, so I gave up pretty quickly. But I already know the day will come where I will try and learn gouache. Did you get any help from friends or family? Were you living independently when you made that step? I am really thankful you ask, because family and friends play a huge role in my decision. As I mentioned before, I was scared like crazy right before making that step into self-employment. I am living with my husband, who is a founder and has been running his own business since he was 17 years old. My parents are self-employed as well, both running their own businesses, also working together in one, and even my little sister has an online job. I've been surrounded by self-employed people since I was a child and never really experienced how it is to be employed. Still, I was super scared because I am not a confident person at all. But I talked to my husband, my parents, my sister, my best friend, my girls from uni, and they all supported me and cheered me up. Knowing your closest people support you makes you feel so strong, and it is a big part of what made me jump into it, not knowing what would happen. How confident were you at the start? Not so much. I don't have much confidence anyways. I get nervous when I'm around people, I'm shy, I'm quiet, and I get really exhausted when I have to talk to strangers. I am also never 100% happy with my art, and I always see the things I can improve on. But I really wanted to take that step because I enjoyed the freedom, and I already did some freelance jobs, so I knew that it can possibly work out. I'm extremely grateful for every opportunity, and I don't take anything for granted because I know tomorrow it can be over. How was the beginning? Was it very hard? I think it is important to say that I kind of unknowingly prepared myself for a couple of years before taking that step. I got jobs right away because I built up an online presence already. I was not starting completely fresh with nothing in hand. This would have been much harder. So I would say, yes, it was hard because it was a big change and it is not as easy as it might seem, but it could have been much harder without preparing for it. Big thanks to social media and some of my previous freelance gigs. It helped me a lot. What was the hardest obstacle you encountered and either are overcoming or have overcome after you became a full-time illustrator? I can't really decide on only one thing, so here are the two hardest things for me. The first one is actually taking the step. One of the hardest things for me was to actually do it, to hand in my notice of resignation and to put myself out there. I was actively deciding against comfort and for uncertainty, but it was all worth it. The second thing that is still hard and I haven't overcome yet is to stay on top of everything I want to do. Next to my ongoing client projects, there are mails to respond to, invoices to send, estimates to write, Etsy orders to pack and ship, videos to film and to edit, taxes to take care of, blog posts to write, personal paintings, keeping up with social media, and family life, friends, and did I mention time for myself? It's a lot, but I freaking love it. That's it for now, and I hope I was able to give you a little glimpse of how I started and answered a couple of questions. I also wanted to say that I am by no means saying freelance life is better than anything else. There are definitely just as much negative sides as there are positive sides. For example, no one pays you when you are sick. There is no certain income every month. You have to do everything yourself and you are coping with a lot of worries and stress. Not to mention that you have to pay for your insurance and handle taxes. It's definitely not for everybody, but the freelance life is a whole nother blog post topic. I hope I answered the majority of your questions. If you have any more, let me know in the comments down below. Bye!